Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Johanna Richey. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great, too. We've got phenomenal guests today, Joe. I'd like to introduce the team from CMC Foundation, where their kind of mission is education is your passion, their passion. And I'd like to introduce the founders of the CMC Foundation, Dr. Mark Razzante, Dr. Christina Pratt, and Dr. Coleman Clougherty. Welcome to Dean's Chat.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sometimes, there's first, right? I don't think we've ever done a podcast where we've had three people in one screen, so we're loving it. Right? I think it's going to work. We got the audio perfect. So on Dean's Chat, we're pretty informal. So if it's okay with you, I was hoping we could go with first names. Let's go Mark, Christina, Coleman, Joe, and Jeff. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
Perfect.
All right. Well, welcome to Dean's Chat.
Yeah, it's like a party today. We got the whole crew. So thank you all three for making the time to come and share with our listeners where your stories have brought you into podiatry, and then also the development of CMC STEPS Foundation and all the different things that you guys are doing right now. I don't want to spend too much time on your intro. However, as I was reading through some of your CV stuff, what was so interesting that I did not realize, all three of you went to the same undergrad, which was John Carroll University. And then you all went to complete a master's degree in bioethics at Case Western Reserve University. And then you all applied to podiatry school. But you split a little bit. So Mark and Chrissy went to Samuel Merritt University, and Coleman went to the Ohio Podiatric Medical School.
Correct.
So I've got to hear what all of the background is, and then we'll jump into the residency stuff. So let's start with, how did you guys meet?
Well, we all went to a very small Jesuit undergrad school, and there were really not many science classes. So we unfortunately or fortunately had to take pretty much every class with each other for 4 years. So we walked into a chemistry class, because there's only, I think, 10 chemistry majors in the whole school, and realized that we had no choice but to be best friends from day one.
What year are we talking now?
This is our freshman year in
Yeah, so we'll go back to 2003.
Yeah.
2003. Yeah. So these guys were in Gen Chem lab with me. They would come in, they would finish their Gen Chem experiments in 5 minutes and be out. And I would be in there with my notebook the entire two and a half hours. So, so we all got to know each other. We all got to know each other through Gen Chem, and then the rest of the way through a pre-med curriculum at John Carroll.
And then usually,
That's fantastic.
as the story goes.
So did you guys know each other before undergrad?
No.
No, this was all a new experience for us.
Sorry, I think I'm on a delay.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
So it was us meeting in our freshman year, and then going through, 4 years of undergrad. Then we all kind of didn't know what exactly we wanted to do, kind of in between, ideas of going to different professions and stuff. But we all were really interested in medicine. So we stuck with that and went to Case Western for that master's program you had mentioned, which was a really condensed 1-year curriculum. So it was really great, for us to then leap into what our now careers became. So.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Back in the early 2000s, I used to sit on sections for the NIH for doling out grants, and Case Western always had tons of biomedical grants coming through the NIH, and they were studying foot and ankle things also. So I was always just fascinated. Some engineers, the passion for subtalar joint motion. I thought, really, where'd this come from? But that's great, because Case Western has a wonderful name too.
Yeah.
It was a great program. I mean, it was a good chance for all three of us to be put in a hospital setting. So, in Cleveland, Ohio, where we're fortunate. We've got some major health systems here between Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and Metro Health. And so being at Case for that year put us in all of those places, rotating with not just, ethics teams, but rotating with all different specialties of medicine. And so I think that really helped all three of us sort of narrow down what we wanted in a career in healthcare too.
Yeah. I think seeing each profession with their most ethical dilemmas really ended up leading us to, okay, podiatry is not so bad, compared to a lot of these other professions. People are generally happier there. So I think we all ended up realizing that together.
Yeah, that topic's a whole nother podcast for another day, but I know what you mean, right? I mean, our students oftentimes will say, the reason I went into podiatry is I shouted all these different doctors, and the podiatrists were the happiest. They were doing what they liked, and they tailored their practice in such a fashion. So that's no surprise to me, but I'd be curious to hear some of those stories down the road.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Joe?
So then you guys decided to go to different schools. And then when you were looking at residency programs, how did you end up in the same place? Because Mark and Coleman were co-residents. And Chrissy, you were at least in a nearby city.
I was at a program also in Cleveland, just sort of next door. Yeah. So, yeah.
To highlight your programs. So Mark and Coleman went to St. Vincent Charity Medical Center in Cleveland. Yes. And Chrissy, you did your residency program at the Cleveland Clinic, Mercy Health, and Akron General Hospital.
Yes.
All right. So tell us about that process. Did you guys try to match together?
We knew that after being away in California for a few years, we wanted to come home closer to family. So I just said, where should I go? I trusted him that much to tell me where he was going to go. And I figured that was going to be good enough for me. But yeah, I externed at the other locations, and we decided it was going to be more enjoyable and more educational to go to residency together, because we really just taught each other more probably than
everything else.
Yeah.
So we did, all the match stuff. We obviously were really excited to match together. We went through hell and back together, through residency. And I always said I wouldn't have gotten through residency without Mark, and probably the same. Yeah. So, and then we had Chrissy with us for most of the time, with residencies, cohabitating and all that stuff. So it was a fun 3 years. 3 years.
3 years.
Feels like
sometimes it felt like long.
But,
yeah.
All right. So then tell us. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I knew that I wanted to be in the same area. Cleveland is home for all three of us. But, I wanted the same but different as far as training. And I was already really interested in a lot of outpatient cases. And the program that they attended was a lot more inpatient management. And so I was fortunate enough to match at a great program that gave me exposure to a ton of attendings doing a ton of outpatient surgery, which fit for me. So it worked out for all three of us, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So tell us about your foundation. We'll start with, where did you come up with the idea? How did it kind of start? And then we'll dive down into it.
You want to start?
Should we be honest about?
We should be honest.
Yes.
It's a podcast.
The students love it when we're
just
honest.
gotta tell it like it is.
Well, it all came from the royal wedding of Meghan and Harry.
Yes.
The irony.
So we actually really wanted to go to the UK. None of us had ever been. And at that point in time, Mark and I were both full-time faculty with Kent State University College of Podiatric Medicine. We had been teaching there, I think, for maybe 2 years at that point. We had been teaching at KSU CPM, and we decided to make sort of just a friend trip vacation to go out to the UK for the first time when the royal wedding was happening. And it was your idea to contact.
Yeah, so I figured while we're out there, we should see what kind of podiatry schools they have in England. I had no idea, so I just did some research, and I just sent an email out to the College of Podiatry and said, hey, we're going to be out there. Here's a little bit about ourselves, things we like to do education-wise. we're just interested in, seeing if we could tour the school or just meet you and see what your educational process is like.
We had STEPS did not exist. We had no foundation. There was nothing at that point. It was just the three of us
Curiosity.
being friends for 20 years, all in the same profession, curious about how they did it in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. So we showed up. They told us, sure, you can meet us at I think it was maybe 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. And we thought, okay, they're going to be courteous and to show us around and close up for the day. And we walked in and there was a huge meeting room, fishbowl glass with 20 people in it waiting for us. Apparently it was one of 3 days that the whole UK board gets together and they wanted to actually meet us all, which was amazing. And you kind of took it over from there.
So then we came in, I came in with a couple things that, we were wanting to work on with student education. Cause again, they were full-time faculty at Kent and I was kind of part-time teaching.
It always helped.
And we had a couple spitballing ideas with them, sat down, talked about teaching ideas and collaborating with, our students in the US and their students at the UK. And one thing led to another. It did turn 5 o'clock. So they're like, we're going to continue this over at the pub. So we transferred the conversation in their fashion over to the pub, and pretty much was asked at that point, all three of us, to speak at their next large annual countrywide conference. And so that was a couple of months prior to, I can't remember exactly when, but and then we went over, decided to lecture at their conference, and I think that's where STEPS.
Yeah, we wanted to take a few students with us. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity for students to go. They could have they had a cadaver the entire day. And we were trying to reach out and get some sponsorship for students, right? Since they couldn't afford themselves. And it was pretty difficult because nobody really wants to donate to students. They want to donate to residents or attendings.
Oh, we know.
So then, we figured it was easier if we just start our own nonprofit and we can try to get some donations. And, instead of donating to us, we can have them just donate to the nonprofit and we just give that money to students to travel. And everything kind of developed from that point where we said, we'll just kind of do it ourselves to provide extra education to students.
So I guess a lot of STEPS was born out of our own naivety of not really appreciating, how difficult it would be to get, to get help, for students financially to be able to attend something like this. And again, this is all pre-STEPS even existing. It was just the three of us thinking, well, gosh, this is a really cool opportunity. I mean, their conference is called the Faculty of Podiatric Surgery of the UK. They hold it once a year, sort of, analogous to our ACFAS. And their structure, and we can even get into that, is much, much different as far as the amount of podiatrists versus the amount of podiatric surgeons that they have in the UK. And so this group of podiatric surgeons is pretty small. But, there are a lot of parallels, but also a lot of differences to not only the way that we educate, but in the way that they run their conferences. And we just thought, how cool would this be as a student to get to go to this? We were so excited as, fairly new attendings in practice to be invited and to get to go. And we thought it'd be even cooler if we could take our students. And I think we tried maybe 3 different applications for grants and got told no at sort of every end point. Yeah. We got told at one point, why do students need to go abroad? They can get plenty of good education here in the US. And so we were so frustrated by that, that we were like, how are we going to work around this? Because if we keep doing this, this is too good of an opportunity to lose out on, to not bring more people in with us. Which is partly where that collaborate of CMC comes from. Mm-hmm. And so, it was just us being naive and us really being frustrated too, and saying, well, how hard can it be? We'll just start a nonprofit. Turns out it's a little bit harder than just starting to write up. So,
I think that's awesome. It's interesting. I just got back from Iceland with the International Federation of Podiatrists, and there were dozens of podiatrists and podiatric surgeons from the UK there, and you probably know them all. But that's fabulous. Talk about taking initiative and making it happen. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So can we
A lot
talk
of
about
paperwork.
Oh yeah.
A lot of paperwork involved in that nonprofit.
So we've talked about STEPS a lot, and STEPS is actually an acronym for Student Transatlantic Education in Podiatric Surgery. Is that correct? Okay. So just
Yeah. So it was the little moniker that we sort of gave, our organization at the time that was, intended to do just that, to help us, get funds to then bring students over to the UK with us to conference. And then that sort of really, really grew into something beyond that when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
COVID
can you
was
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, COVID was really the major spark in STEPS and CMC Foundation. That's when things really started to rapidly grow, and we started getting a lot of interest from the students. As I'm sure you guys all know, COVID shut down everything, including student rotations and cadaver labs, and everyone was learning how to do injections on Zoom, sticking it into a banana or whatever that, whatever they could. And we as educators really felt for the students as we had become fairly close with some of the students because of the rotations through the private practice that we were at, that we could see how tough it was for them to get the education, and they felt like they were behind. They weren't seeing any surgeries. So we started to do, outreach to some of the students to come and do cadaver labs in our office. And we were able to do that through our nonprofit because the companies were now willing to, okay, yes, now we'll give you grants. You can use that for education, et cetera. And a lot of our, initial following and stuff was a big core group of residents who are all over our Instagram account because they're so involved. But that was really the start of something big and educational for students.
Yeah, it really came from the group of residents that are on our board now that, they're now about to graduate residency, which feels crazy for us because I think we still feel not far removed from residency, 10 years down the road. But, it came from them going through COVID as students in their second year, third year. And us, we probably failed to mention, we were all in private practice together for about 5 years or so. Yeah. We've just done all the things. We've done all the things together. So, our private practice was able to say, hey, you can't get into clinic. You can't get into the OR. Well, we can at least try to bring it to you. And we can get companies now through our nonprofit to bring limbs into our office so that we can do these labs. We had a very rudimentary setup. We bought a GoPro at the start of COVID, and we decided that we would just start live streaming some of these cadaver dissections for students that were, obviously we're in a small private practice. Not many people can be in person. So we were just doing, one of us would do the dissection. Somebody would narrate. Somebody else had the GoPro either strapped to their head or GoProing. And one of us would be on Facebook or YouTube just answering questions as they came in.
Wow.
And so we had that little operation going for probably almost a year, trying to just supplement clinical education, I guess, as best we knew how, from our little setup and our little foundation at that point.
Well, that brings back a lot of
memories.
I know. Yeah.
It was really cool because the students who weren't there that were watching on the live stream could ask questions. We could just answer an academic question, or we could say, hey, pause, Chrissy or Cole, go back and dissect or point out the lateral malleolus so they can see it. And we can actually make it interactive with the students who weren't there. So we thought it was beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
How many?
I remember
I'm sorry. How many episodes did you do, or how many of these live dissections?
We were doing them every Friday for a couple months.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, and we were really good with focusing on certain anatomy or dissection, so everyone who tuned in, they knew what they were getting into, and I think Instagram was really big at first, and then YouTube became really big.
Yeah,
I remember the one time We live streamed on Facebook, which was really great, but really strange at the same time. We had like 10,000 or more people watching live, but we started getting some strange people tuning in and asking some very odd questions. So we learned our lesson on that one. Facebook is not the place for that.
Not the place.
So we went back to the closed room Zooms, and that worked a lot better.
And do you guys have a YouTube channel now that students can find those videos if they were looking for surgical dissections?
We do.
We do, yeah. So almost all of the dissections that we did during COVID are on there. We've added a lot of different videos, mostly from the OR, kind of, almost like 10-minute cheat sheets right before you go out to your externships. We want to have those, available for the students. So almost everything that we have done in the past, and we still do videos left and right, but the old ones are there, the oldies. But editing isn't as good as the old ones, so
there is no editing. Right. It's just us.
Yeah. You can definitely tell where I learned how to edit on iMovies and when I did not. But yeah, the videos are very helpful, and I think they're good refreshers even for those externs. I'm sorry, those fourth years who are going into residency. Kind of remember a lot of the stuff, putting on our techniques and stuff like that. So they're definitely readily available.
Yeah, we really tried to listen to what the students needed. And I think that we kept hearing that in a formalized education setting, being full-time professors, whether they were rotating with us in our private practice on their surgery rotation. And I know we felt like that as students too. You sometimes feel like, well, it would be so helpful if someone just talked to me about this, or if somebody just went over this. And, it gets really frustrating when you at least are willing to vocalize that, but nobody is responding or listening. And I think we've tried to stay so in touch to that. Like, you tell us what you need, we'll figure out a way to make it happen for you. And that's what we did during COVID. Yeah. And that's what I think we've still tried to do with just a simple little video on how to drop an injection, which is, 2 minutes long. But somebody said to us one time, I keep forgetting how to do that. And we're like, we'll just pop up a little video on that. And so I think that a lot of what we keep trying to do is just listening to what students are saying. I feel like there's a gap here, or I need to know this better, and then trying to go off of that.
That's brilliant.
I think that's awesome. Yeah.
So what's next? I mean, what's in store for the future of CMC and STEPS?
So over the last couple of years, maybe it was over the last year or two, we started going to different schools. We were going and doing with Kerecis. They were having us go do like suturing labs with schools. So that way, nothing we're trying to take over other education, but just some supplemental workshop, because, we know as faculty, it's hard for students to get workshops because they don't know the connections to companies. It's hard for them to get people to come in. So we decided we would just go to them. We went to Temple. We did California, Samuel Merritt, Ohio, New York. We're going to be working on setting up another one where we might get some more hardware involved this time out in the Bay Area too. So we like the idea of going to different schools because, it's hard to get students to all come somewhere, right? We do everything for free for the students. So we don't want them to pay. So we realized it might be easier for us just to go to them and coordinate, provide some extra hands-on skills.
I think that was another frustration point for us in how this all came to be too, was that we would hear students say, well, I'm going to pay, $50 a month to get access to this, or I'm going to buy this manual that somebody made. And, we would always be like, let me see that, and we didn't want students to ever have to pay for anything. Yeah. We just wanted to give them access, and we just wanted to give them something that had zero, underlying motive, that was just us saying, hey, there are people that did this similar for us and that opened doors for us and gave us access to cadaver labs or resources. And I think we, especially with COVID and them losing out on a lot, we just really wanted them to continue to have something that any student anywhere could access and is welcome to be a part of.
And who
I
wouldn't
think that's really good advice.
Yep.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead, Joe.
For students that are, there's all kinds of resources out there now, and, you have to pay for something, subscribe here, all of the clicks, right? But to always maybe go to your faculty first and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to do practice interviews or do a CV review, right? Like your faculty will do that for free, first and foremost. But also there are other opportunities where you can have those interactions where, this isn't to downplay the people that are selling a product to, be useful and helpful to students, but that is not the only option that's out there, that there are free versions of that.
Right.
And I think that that's a really great message that you can get as much as you want to invest in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go check with your faculty.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that, none of us involved in this level of student education ever say, we're the only resource or we're the best resource. No, we're just another one, right?
Yeah.
Like we're just another opportunity for you. So, and that's what I hope we can continue to be.
That makes sense. And what I was going to say is what company wouldn't want to be part of an entity that is giving back to the profession and really asking for nothing in return? I mean, it's incredible. Very noble.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we've had really good, feedback and participation from companies. 3 years ago now, we had our first student-focused conference, which was really well attended, considering it was right after COVID stuff was kind of calming down. So we had like 120 some students who showed up to the conference. And then we have done it for the past 3 years, including the first. And, companies have been very willing and able to support those events. And most of those are hands-on, like, anyone can stand up there and give the same talk year after year, but we like to do a lot of hands-on stuff because, we all think and that's where the students really grow and, prepare themselves for either externships or residencies. And I think, thanks to the help, we couldn't do it without the help of, the companies, the skin grafts, the hardware. They obviously get the return from that education as those people are going off into their residencies. So.
That makes perfect sense. Now, we don't mind you putting in a couple shameless plugs for events coming up. I was on your website. You've got a big meeting coming up, right?
We will. Yeah. We'll be out in June. Yes. We were just talking about that today because we would love to be able to take students with us to the upcoming surgery conference in England. So we're going to get an application out there. Funding, obviously, we'll make a donation to cover some of their travel. But it's such a good experience for them to be able to go and learn something different that we're all really excited. This will be the first time back in a couple of years. It's been virtual for. We
were out there in person. We're about to be out there in person. I think it was the day or two before COVID shut everything down. We had 2 or 3 students coming with us. All of us, we had already sent out 6 posters for the exhibit hall. Yeah. They were already in the UK, and then COVID hits. And so the following year or two, we were virtual, and we are very, very excited in another few months to be back out there again in person, doing workshops and all 3 of us lecturing again, and bringing, a new small group of students out there with us.
That's fabulous. I can't wait till you guys come out to Arizona. You let us know when. We'll put something together.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
We've been working on it. It's just life, man. Trying to get everything scheduled. These are very busy people.
We miss working with Joe in general, so we need to get out there and see her.
Oh, it sounds good. So are you mostly working with Kent? Obviously, they're right in your backyard. how else are you interfacing with the other colleges? You're going and doing workshops and things, but getting your name out there. What's the best way to do that? I mean, 10,000 people on a Facebook section, that's pretty incredible. That is one way. Of course, when you think you've seen everything, you haven't seen it all based on the comments.
Right. So I think, when we first started, it was very much Kent driven. All of our students who are rotating with us, obviously Kent students. And luckily, as they have grown up, yes, sounds so old, when they start to grow and expand across the country in residencies, they have now brought new students, new faces, new schools to the STEPS organization. This year will be the first year where we're in the final stages now. The board is creating small STEPS groups at each of the colleges. To allow for labs to be set up through the groups. So just like we were saying, going to different schools and doing labs. Part of the hard part is to actually get in the door for those schools, right? So contacts and stuff like that. So they're working right now on those little satellite groups. Which will allow us to do it. So, hopefully in the next, year or so, we'll be able to hit all of the colleges around the country and continue to grow the bigger the net of people, the more help we can get to help other students.
Yeah,
I guess is and that's why we really want, to focus on spreading the wings to all these other places because they're very excited. I mean, every school we've gone to has been super excited to invite us in and do whatever labs we do. And it's been great.
I think the network kind of grew too from that initial group of students that we talked about during COVID that were sort of in our office or logged in virtually as we were GoProing these, little hometown lab setups. Those students, I think we probably all three of us took for granted how much that meant to them. Mm-hmm. And I think we sort of just assumed, like many students do, they graduate on to bigger and better things and you hope they remember you. And some do and some don't. And these students, I think it hit all three of us hard when we realized we really had an impact on their education and on what they took clinically out of the time that they were in school. And they wanted to continue to be a part of this. They're like, how do I continue to be a part of, what you guys are doing? And how do we make STEPS bigger and better? And we were like, wow, you guys really want to stay connected to this thing. And I think that gave all three of us motivation to say, all right, well, let's grow it. Let's keep it going. Let's see what else we can do. And now, like we said, those students are residents all over the country. And they've really, as now our STEPS board, they've really spearheaded, especially a ton of the virtual education. So all of these, virtual academic sessions that, you see popping up through STEPS are really them leading it. And we want that to happen. We want this to continue to be a pay it forward, type of a situation.
Yeah.
That's great. To paraphrase Dr. Harkless, he said, if you teach, you touch generations. And it sounds like you did that. You met a need during COVID, and that's just awesome. I'm sure they're very appreciative, and they'll be helping you as time goes on. I have another question for you. I love the transatlantic aspect. And in our country, we've got AACPM, the American Association of Colleges of Podiatric Medicine. They have a similar entity in Europe where they have 51 schools of podiatric medicine. And they had their educational meeting I guess it was last week in France. But England's a great start, but there's other countries like Spain that's trying to elevate their level. Everybody's got different levels, scope of practice and things, but everybody's on a continuum and they're just at different stages. So you may find yourself going to places you wouldn't have imagined before.
Mm-hmm. We're open to all of it.
I figured. Yeah. That's great. Anything else?
Might be a fun future networking kind of thing, Jeff, is to start connecting people across the globe, right? It's a small world, and all it takes is connecting the right people sometimes. It also made me think of Dr. Jacobs, I think, was talking about the ripples in a pond, right?
Yes.
So I've been contacted by one of their prior STEPS participants, and he had talked about what a huge impact it was on his life, and he's wanting to start some things through the residency program that now he's a faculty for. And I won't say his name just in case he doesn't want to be made public. But again, as soon as I found out he was wanting to do these things after growing up through some of the experiences that he had had with you guys and through STEPS, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, what an amazingly small world and community. And I love this idea of being flexible and pivoting and adaptable to the world that we're living in. And if anything that I would love to hear from each of you is the growing pains through that process. What advice would you get? Because again, this generation is going to grow up maybe being better prepared for being flexible and adaptable, but what would your advice be on the growing pains associated with that change?
A really good question. I think that when you have, as Chrissy mentioned earlier, there are tons of areas you can get information from, tons of resources, that it seems like a lot of people are more just in accumulation phase of I need to get all this resources so I can have it. And it's not actually the repetition, because when we offer these virtual sessions, like getting able to go into a session and practice, reading images or practice talking through a case is going to actually recall what you were learning on your own and practice that. It's the students that are going through that, you see, wow, you're actually putting yourselves out there, and you might be embarrassed in front of other students from other schools you don't know, but you're getting better and you're going to be more developed by the end of your time there. And it's actually, getting away from just hoarding all of your information and trying to practice using it in front of others. It's really important.
I guess I would say,
really
as far as growing pains, whether that's developing into a new practitioner, growing pains that we've gone through, like, it's okay if people tell you no.
Yeah.
It's okay if you hear no, that this can't be done, or no, I can't do that for you. And it's okay to look elsewhere. It's okay to, if it's something that is a passion of yours that means something to you, kind of like we did. You may not know, you may not have all the resources, but you'll figure out a way to do it. And I think that persistence becomes really, really important. And surrounding yourself with people that you really feel comfortable with, I think, is important too. I think we've all been in experiences where we've had, truly, honestly, altruistic people helping us in our career. And, that's really the motive behind what we're doing, is just somebody did this for us, and that same ripple effect that you mentioned. And, if you can find those people, you can really, really thrive. And I think that hopefully maybe we can give one little corner to being able to say, hey, this is a safe space. This is something where you can feel comfortable, casual. We've always tried to, heck, all of our conferences have been held at pubs or breweries. And we've tried to keep it very casual, like, let's have a beer and let's dissect a limb, not at the same time, but we'll do it all in the same day. And we'll keep it casual. We'll make it comfortable for you to ask questions, because we all learn that way. Yeah. So
it's my kind of conference. Sign me up.
Join us.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
I was
just going to say, I think the one thing that, like, as far as growing pains goes, I think I was actually looking back in preparation for this podcast at our original Instagram posts, like way back when, and through COVID when it first started. And I remember taking a picture of the Zoom we posted, and I think there were 7 people plus 3 speakers. Oh, yeah. So, and not getting frustrated at that point that, okay, this is a waste of our time. But, we were very persistent in that stuff. And I think knowing that even if there's one person logging in, that person you're making an impact on. And I think that's what our focus has been from day one. And it continues to be now, even though our audience is larger. I think knowing that you're going to hopefully impact one person to push them to that next level that they're trying to get to, whether it's educationally or job wise or, financially, whatever the case may be. I like to pride ourselves in that, we went from literally those 7 people were probably family members,
Yes.
Whatever else, people that we knew to log on. But eventually that hard work paid off, and we're able to help a lot of people that way.
Yeah, we had some Saturday radiology. We did during COVID, and even thereafter, we did some Saturday morning radiology reviews. And, there were some weeks where maybe we had, 25, 30 people. And then there were some weeks where we had 3. Yeah. And I mean, we made it work, and we had a good time with those 3 people, and we learned something.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for persistence. I remember when we started this podcast, I remember our first video that got 100 views on YouTube. I was like, party time, celebrate. So you just got to keep plugging along. So for anybody out there that wants to participate with CMC Foundation, for some people, it'll be financially. What's the best way to donate to the cause to help students train in the future with you?
Yeah, everything's on our website, supportcmc.com. So our social media is on there, which, none of us are content creators. Yeah. None of us are good at that. We do the best that we can between us, but we did finally get smart enough and we're able to have a company come in and design a website for us. So that's been really, really helpful. But supportcmc.com is it. And we sort of have all the links through that to access, whether it's YouTube or anything that we try to, really talk about that we'll be doing upcoming is through there.
It's a beautiful website.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Joe, what else do we have?
So you have had teaching experience through Kent University, and you guys, Mark and Chrissy, are both current faculty for Samuel Merritt University. What would you say your teaching style is? You do a lot of obviously online teaching and in-person workshop teaching. What's your philosophy?
We have very different teaching styles, which is great. That's what makes this all work so well. And when we go as a group to teach, we all have our own style. I think that as a group, we can play off each other really well. And we know our strengths and weaknesses since we've been together for 2 decades. Just like even today, like knowing who's going to talk about what, we can kind of know where each person's going to go. I'm very dry. I'm, blunt to the point. I don't really, elaborate anything. So I can do content well, but these 2 are both wonderful at putting more, finesse on everything and making everything much better. So I wouldn't be where I am without these 2, that's for sure.
I think that's important, though. I think that the students who have gotten to know us either through STEPS or through formal education know that, maybe I'm somebody who learns better with more detail, or maybe I'm somebody who just needs to be told, boom, this is it. This is how you get to the answer. So I think all 3 of us sort of approach it a little bit differently, but all sort of in the same, transparency is the best word. And I think that that's really important to all of us, is just being an open resource, especially when students come and say, well, that's really great because nobody's ever talked about that before. Or nobody's been willing to explain that in that way before, or, discuss this. And I think all 3 of us are very, very open, whether it's about, private practice or whether it's about our own journeys in education. And so I think that transparency, it's really important to me in a setting for STEPS. And it's really important to me even in a formal academic setting, when I'm in class lecturing, is just a level of comfortability or transparency with students, because they're smart. They can read right through a lot of that, that mumbo jumbo or that finesse and figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to reiterate what they said. I think we all have very different styles. I always used to joke that Mark was the Excel sheet and then we were kind of the PowerPoint kind of people. But that's kind of what makes us work and makes us work in the student academic settings. When we go to the schools and we do the labs and stuff, we all hop around and kind of teach the same stuff, but in different ways. And I think that helps with students being able to relate to a certain, like Chrissy said, a certain way of teaching that not everyone learns by, I'm very like, I don't know, let's talk about cases and let's like have fun with this stuff. Like not everyone is like that. Like they need to, have more, like there's probably 3 words on all of my slides and presentations.
There's 150 on mine.
And I think, that kind of, and that has been the case with us forever, pretty much. And even in private practice, we all 3 did completely different practices within the one, meaning, what we specialize in and stuff. So, and I think that helps with students and our, education of them.
That's fabulous. What's crossing my mind right now is we need help recruiting students across the nation, and we're doing the Feet on the Street Student Recruitment Initiative. You 3 would be amazing ambassadors anywhere in the country at any undergraduate institution, talking about podiatric medicine. I could see that as a little side gig for you guys too.
Who would enjoy it?
Feet on the Street is in our plan. Yeah.
Well, very good. We like that. All right. We've got some funding for it too, if you ever do want to move on that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Things we can chat about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Joe and I would love to thank all 3 of you for getting together at the same time and joining us on Dean's Chat. We're going to send each of you one of these Dean's Chat cups, and you're busy people, they got a lot of irons in the fire. So I commend you for that. And thank you for helping train up the next generation, not only on this side of the pond, but on the other side of the pond. That's fabulous. Congratulations.
Thanks for being willing to hear about STEPS.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
We love it. We love it. And hopefully a lot more people will be knowing about it now. And how are we donating again? Support CMC?
SupportCMC.com.
You got it.
And CMC stands for Collaborative Medical Content. Again, just sort of the overarching parent, I guess, nonprofit of what we're doing through the STEPS program.
That's fabulous. Joe, anything else on your end?
No, that was it. Thank you so much for taking the time, guys, to come and share with our audience what you're... Oh, actually, I do have one final question. How did each of you get interested in podiatry? I mean, you were all together when it happened.
It's all the same.
Was there like...
Yeah.
This is another space for honesty.
Yeah. We were at the end of our
work life.
Yeah, it ended up coming down to we were at the end of our master's and didn't know exactly what we wanted to next. And there was a podiatry pamphlet in a conference room, and we were like, this is good enough. We'll just do that.
We always joke that that's how it happened. But I mean, truly, Case Western and our master's degree is really what I think propelled us all in that direction. But it's also a funnier story to just say we found a pamphlet in a conference room and went that way.
I have a question for you. How did you decide on going to California, 2 of you, as opposed to just staying at Kent?
Yeah. It was my fault.
Your fault. Samuel Merritt would not like
No, I like I grew up, and my high school, undergrad, even Case was all within like 7 miles from my home. So if we would have gone to the Ohio college, that was also like 7 to 10 miles from my home. So I wanted to get away, but I also really liked the small classroom setting. For me, and I think kind of what we do as a group too, is we're better in these small group settings than being in a larger group. Even going to a business school and all of our science classes, there was only 15 people maybe in a science class. So it was nicer to go to a school that had that kind of setting as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I had always wanted to live in a bigger city for a short period of time. And I was sort of ready to fly the nest from home too at that time. So I think for both of us, Samuel Merritt was an awesome choice. We both absolutely loved it. So.
Yeah, my wife and I spent 4 years in the Bay Area in podiatry school also, and it was the best.
It was great.
It's a great place to visit. It's a great place to go back to, and I still have lots of friends there, so we try to get back as often as possible.
Yeah, I was excited that they were going there since I got to visit there.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. And to all of our listeners out there on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, please become a subscriber and check out the CMC Foundation also. We like the social media, and hopefully we can get some support for your events and look forward to having you out in Arizona. So thanks again. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.